We're at our last presentation now before we have a little bit of a refreshment break. We're going to hear from Ward Appeltans from UNESCO.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. First of all, I would like to apologize for not being here the whole week. I was in Hobart for another workshop on microalgae, but since I was in the neighborhood and IOC is also involved in this, took the opportunity to come to this meeting as well, and I really enjoyed the presentations today. So IOC, the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, is joining the biofouling partnership project, and it will focus on the non-shipping pathways of the non-native invasive species. Maybe just a few words on IOC. IOC is the UN ocean body responsible for ocean science, oceans observations and services, data management, capacity development, and transfer of marine technology. We have functional autonomy under UNESCO, meaning that we have our own member states. We have 150 member states which define the program and budget, but the budget is approved by UNESCO. That's the only difference. So our role in the biofouling partnership project is, as I said, on the non-shipping pathways. And here are the outline of the outputs. It's really building that sustained national regional capacity, developing best practices and guidelines and tools, awareness raising, building public-private partnerships, and we are doing this in collaboration with the World Ocean Council. Increase investments, improved information, databases, and enhanced cooperation. This is all very high level, and since the project's really just about to start, I can't really report on any activities, except for a number of side activities that are relevant to the biofouling partnership, which is the approval a few weeks ago at the UN in New York for the establishment of a new GAZAAM working group on biofouling management and non-indigenous species. Maybe first, what is GAZAAM, if you don't know what it is the joint group of experts on scientific aspects of marine environmental protection. It's an advisory body within the UN, established in 1969, that advises the UN system on the scientific aspects of marine environmental protection. It's co-sponsored by 10 UN agencies. What's quite interesting in GAZAAM is that, they establish these working groups, but they also have a pool of experts, and the nominations of those experts are not only done by the UN agencies and the member states of those UN agencies, but also by private, by NGOs, by IGOs, regional bodies. So it's really open for real experts, not just those nominated by countries. So there is this new working group, GAZAAM working group, established a few weeks ago, which will be led by IOC and co-sponsored by UNDP and IMO. There will be two workshops to develop reports. What they will really look into is what are better understanding of the dynamics and the pathways of invasive species through biofouling. Do an overview of the impact of biofouling, both on biodiversity and on the socioeconomic aspects. Gap analysis, and also provide scientific advice into policy instruments for the management. As I said, we are still recruiting members of the working groups, so marine scientists, engineers, also social scientists. We had a very good presentation before this one, so I really invite social scientists because raising awareness is really important. So the GAZAAM working group will give feedback into the biofouling partnership project, which is then will give recommendations and best practices to the 12 lead partner countries. Another activity that I'd like to report on is a new project proposal ID that's currently still draft, which we are submitting to donor countries. It's called PACMAN, Pacific Islands Marine Biodiversity Alert Network. I really like the acronym. We discovered the acronym first and then made the title. So what we want to do in this project is increase capacity in member states to detect marine invasive species, to do early warning systems, and to make sure that there's the right communication to implement national and international policies. So get a bit of an overview of how we will implement this is we will develop the Stakeholder Forum, which will be a combination of scientific experts and the managers, the authorities, social scientists, communicators, scientists from the country, but also international scientists. We really want this to be really high-level science project, learning from best practices in other countries. The role is that they have to develop this national monitoring plan. National monitoring plan will develop the protocol for sampling, for sample processing, vouchering, the DNA barcoding, etc. It would also identify the species of concern, species of interest. So then we'll do a test case of field sampling. We'll use the ARMS protocol, which will then feed back into refining, tuning the national monitoring plan. So after a year, when we are sure we have the right methods, we will train local scientists. And actually, this pilot project we want to start in Fiji, but if we have this proof of concept, we would like to expand to other islands, maybe not only in the Pacific. So we'll go into an operational phase in field sampling, and then so the raw data will be cleaned through a data infrastructure bioinformatics pipeline that we are developing to get in collaboration with institutions in Europe, the US, and Australia, such as the Glomicon and the Genomics Observatories Network. I mean, there is a real big effort now in standardizing the workflows among all the genomic observatory networks and systems, science systems in the world. So this unified pipeline, something we will develop on a global scale, so that the small island countries or developing countries don't really need to take care of developing this high-performance computing systems. So that will then feed into a decision support system, and I'll explain a little bit more on that later. And then we will have a training course on how to do the communication in the right way with the stakeholders. So then they will develop this national invasive species strategy and action plan, what they agreed on, committed to develop, which will then feed back into the Stakeholder Forum, and so we can fine-tune the whole process. So this is a bit the decision support tool that we developed. So to build this, in the center, the automated first-line risk assessment, we will develop habitat suitability indicators based on the observations that we have and the environmental data. Add that to this, the geographic distance from known occurrences, the connectivity between ports, reports on the invasiveness of species in other areas. So then we can build this risk assessment. Then, because we are doing the observations in the field, adding more new detections on the live system, we can refine that and build this dashboard application as a kind of an alerting system, an early detection system. So that dashboard will include, for example, maps of invasion risks of target species, location-based species watch list. So if you go to region, what are the species that we have to monitor and watch? An indicator for the risk associated with specific shipping routes, and a reporting mechanism such as an email alert system. So the dashboard that we will develop will be dynamic, will be open source, so that that can directly feed into the project website of biofouling, but also this SPREP, because we're doing this in the Pacific, the SPREP has a Pacific Environment Portal. So this dashboard can be one of those dashboards in their portal. And also you have the ICN Database on invasive species. And this is my last slide, and this is really the project that I'm responsible for in IOC, which is OBIS, the Ocean Biogeographic Information System. It's not just a database, it's really a global network of thousands of institutions that are providing species occurrences in a standardized, quality-controlled way. So, when we are seamlessly harvesting those data and integrating everything into one single portal. So at the moment we have nearly 60 million occurrences of about 126,000 species. So we integrate from nearly 3,000 data sets. I mean, it's freely available online, and there is an API so for machine-to-machine connections. There's an R package for doing analysis. There are about 10 scientific papers citing OBIS every month, so it's really taken up by the scientific community. Because it's open, there's no registration, we don't know all our users, but it's for everyone freely available to use. And we recently looked into how many occurrences do we have of invasive species or non-native species based on the world. You have the World Register of Marine Species, and one of the sub-collections is the World Register of Invasive Species. So we checked how many records we had in OBIS, and we have 2.5 million occurrences of marine invasive species in OBIS. So this is the database that we will use to develop the habitat suitability models, which I talked about in our that can then feed into an alert and an early warning system. And when there are new occurrences in the area, I mean, this risk assessment tool will be constantly updated. So I hope this project, if funded, can then support the Global Fouling Partnership Project and the activities that you're doing by feeding in data into the process. If you're interested in the bioinformatics pipeline or decision support tool, I mean, I think you're free to write me an email, or I don't know how the slides are being distributed to people. So, all right.